She visits the soul nursery where baby souls are born.
Welcome to Soul Guide with Vondi Lozano, a show about past lives, life between lives, and this life.
Hey, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today. This is Vondi, and we have our very special guest, Molly Upton. If you haven't seen it yet, she was on episode 9, Sam the Jolly Ship Captain, whose life was all about adventure. And today we're going to find out the rest of what happened in her life between lives session. That was her past life session. So let me go ahead and bring Molly in. So we're adding her to the webcast.
Hello.
Hey, Molly.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you back. Thank you
I know.
for being
So
here.
excited. Of course.
It is very exciting. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to even having these sessions in the first place, and then we'll jump right in.
Sure. So I grew up in the Bay Area and went to college in Santa Cruz and got my degree in creative writing. And then after college, moved down to San Diego and met my husband and have been here like 13 years now. And for 10 years, I was a writer for Deepak Chopra. I was a ghostwriter for him, writing meditation scripts. And I have 2 kids, 2 boys, one just turned 4 and one is a year. And when I was pregnant with the second one, just wanted something new. So I quit that job and work now with my husband, who's an artist, and we sell his art.
Yeah, and you guys do quite well, and he's quite successful.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Yes. Okay, great. And so what drew you to this work, to these sessions?
So maybe like 15 years ago, I read Michael Newton's books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, and they just like rocked my world. And ever since then, I've wanted to do one, but just kind of I said this in the first part of the podcast, but the money was kind of a block for me.
Right. Yeah.
But the timing with this just worked out. Like several things came up kind of nudging me to look into doing one again, and then the money came in the form of like a giant tax return that we weren't expecting. So it all aligned, and I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, me too. And I'm so glad you found me. And I remember talking and you said, oh, I would love to do it, but we'll kind of have to see how the money works out. And I think did you call me back the same day and say we got the tax return?
No, so I had the like discovery call with you, the like little 15-minute free call, and we talked about that, and I got off the phone with you and opened my email to check my email, and our accountant had emailed me with the money. So it was like right after talking to you, I realized the money was there, and I was like, okay. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm so excited. Sam the Jolly Ship Captain was all about adventure. And I know you just got back from an adventure. You want to say where you were?
Sure. So my family and I went to Oaxaca in Mexico for 3 weeks. And it was our first like big travel as a family. And it was so wonderful and so successful. Like the kids did amazing, and we're such good little travelers. And it really just our plan is to do a big long trip like that every summer. And it just really reinforced that like that's the right thing to do. And it's great. Yeah.
Well, and as we're going to find out, that's what they told you to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. So before we get started, we're going to play a couple of videos from later points in your session. So we'll discuss them in more detail in a little bit, but I just wanted to show everybody kind of what they have to look forward to. So if we can run the videos now, my assistant Leticia will play.
Looks like the Lincoln Memorial. Like they're seated in like, I want to say thrones, but it's not thrones.
Like big chairs.
Yeah, but they're carved into the marble. And they have like red robes on.
Red robe. What's the significance of the red robe?
The order that they are.
How many beings do you see there waiting for you?
4.
Do they present as human or energy or light form or something else?
One of them looks human. It looks like a reptile.
And what about the other two?
I think one of them is Jesus. It looks like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The other is Athena, I think.
Athena,
Yeah,
the
it's like a
Greek god.
yeah, she's like a goddess,
Mm-hmm.
like a warrior goddess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. And the first human, is that a male or a female?
Male. He looks like, I don't think he's Poseidon, but he looks like that. He has the
Mhm.
long beard.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So,
Yeah.
so before we play the second one, I know we'll talk more about this in a minute, but was there anything you wanted to share about your reptile alien?
Yeah, so I did say reptile, but he was more like a dinosaur almost. Like he kind of looked like a velociraptor, like very prehistoric, but very loving too, like not scary at all. I wasn't scared of him or anything. He
Yeah,
was just a dinosaur.
there you go. And those were your counsel, which we'll
Mhm.
talk about in a minute.
Mhm.
And God bless Wendy, my marketing person who does the art and graphics for the show. And I didn't think to clarify. I knew it looked more like a dinosaur, but um, she was putting together as best as she could just from the audio. And you're so
Yeah.
soft because you're under
Mhm.
so deeply at this point in the session.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. All right. And then we'll do the second one.
There's so many different kinds. There's angels, dragons. It's like I know them all. They're all one too.
Dragons. Tell me about the dragons.
They're panthers. Like long and white. Looks like that dragon in the never-ending story, kind of. But more slippery. And flying around too.
What's the purpose of the dragon?
To show me there's magic. Like if I come here, there's so much magic.
Okay. Wow. So you're again really soft spoken because this is far into the session and you're under pretty deeply. But
Mhm.
is there anything you just want to say out loud? I could make out most of what you're saying because I remember I was there. But anything you want to just say because I don't know if people even caught a lot of
Yeah, it was hard to hear. So I was at this point flying around with Jesus and I was seeing angels and like all these souls that looked like rainbow light bodies, just like flying and playing. And then there was a dragon, and he looked like, if you guys have seen the Neverending Story, he looked like Falcor, like white dragon, but he wasn't as fuzzy. He was kind of more slippery, and it looked like he was like swimming through the air. And I said, I think it's Antherus who, so like maybe 10 years ago, I was reading a book of like channeled messages through this
Mhm.
channel. Her name's Aurelia Louise, I think. But she had one, and it was just like a tiny little chapter, like 3 pages of a channeling from a dragon named Antherus. And it like really stuck with me. And I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll show you. Sorry, my cat's like Penny.
No, you're great.
When after I read the channeled message from the dragon, I like had a story that felt like downloaded to me, like a kid's
Mhm.
book. And so
Mhm.
I wrote it down, and my husband illustrated it.
Oh,
And we just,
wow.
yeah, it's super cute. It's like, I don't know if you can see, but so we just like give it to the kids in our lives. And my son is just getting to the age where he's really into it, which is awesome. But the dragons are very loving and friendly, and it's this whole kind of like fable thing. But that felt like the dragon that had gifted me that story, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that cool?
It
So
is
crazy.
crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to rewind now. And you know what? I'm seeing we have comments. So let me see if there's anything we wanted to mention. Oh, just wow, wow. It's from David Ortiz. Thank you, David. He's just like, wow. Yeah, it is wow. That's why I was like, wow, there's a dragon. I've never seen a dragon in this session before. I've seen a lot, but not a dragon. So it was pretty crazy. So if there's more comments, Leticia, just let me know. Send me a message. Because otherwise I'm just going to jump into Molly's sessions here. So let's kind of back up to the beginning. So not everybody understands, but the way it works is you do a past life session, which is what we did with Molly in her first session, Sam, the jolly ship captain, who was all about adventure. And then when you come back for your life between lives session, you do another past life session, but this time you go to your immediate past life because we're wanting to explore the time between your last life and the now life, between who you were before and who you are today, Molly, and all that happens before you become Molly. So can you share a little bit about who you were in your most immediate past life, and I'll fill in some of the gaps.
Sure. So I was a male named Jack, and I was a
Mhm.
cowboy
Mhm.
in Oklahoma in 1892. Is that right?
Mhm. Mhm.
1892? Yeah, the year was very specific for me with that one.
Mhm.
And when I first came in, I was standing on I was 19 and I was standing
Mhm.
on my parents' ranch. They had like a big property that looked like plains and like kind of rolling
Mhm.
grassy hills. And I was with my horse and I just like loved this horse. Like this horse was just like my best bud, and we would like ride through the plains together. Um and I was in full like cowboy regalia. I had the boots and the hat and the like cow vest and everything. And I was um kind of like daydreaming about taking my horse and like riding off to see the world and getting out
Right.
of this kind of like small Oklahoma town. Yeah.
Yeah. So you wanted freedom, but
Yes.
we'll find out in the end of this life that didn't end up being the case.
Hmm.
And you like to go to the saloon and pick up girls. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you asked me what I did all day, and I said I like did the ranch chores, basically like fed the animals and herded the cattle and everything. And then you asked me what I do for fun. And I said I go to the saloon and try to pick up women. And I could see like the saloon swinging doors and
Mhm.
all the women with their like those dresses with the poofy butts, you
Right, right,
know?
right, right, right.
Um, and you asked me if I was successful, and I said no. I think I said they all think I'm like a joke, like I'm
Yeah.
just some ranch
'Cause you're
kid.
young. You were
Yeah,
young.
yeah,
And I pictured like saloon girls, but the poofy butts would have been more like the town girls.
yeah. No, they were like town girls. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then we went to the childhood, and I
Mhm.
remember the mom was a little sad.
Yeah, so I was, learning to ride a horse with my dad,
Mhm.
who was very loving. Like, he loved me, but he was kind of distant, and I remember he had this black mustache that he would wax with his
Oh,
earwax.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that was the
I
that
remember
was
that.
the detail I got about him for some reason.
Yeah.
But he was kind of strict, like, made me do my chores and all
Mhm.
that, and then my mom was very distant. Like, I could picture her sitting in a corner, just like in a chair, kind of like staring into space. And I realized that she had had a daughter before. Like, I had an older sister who had died as a
Mhm.
young child, and she had kind of just like checked out of life after that. So she wasn't really there for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sad.
Mhm.
And then as you grew up, you met your most important person, and who was that?
That was my wife, Debbie.
Debbie, yeah.
And yeah, the first scene with her was our wedding. And she was like so beautiful. She was this blonde woman, like so beautiful, pregnant in her wedding dress. We were in this little ramshackle church, and she had a big giant family that was like very warm and welcoming and boisterous. And they were all throwing rice at us, like walking
Wait,
down the
wait, did you
aisle.
say pregnant? Was she pregnant when she was married?
She was.
I don't know if
I
I
don't
remember
know
that.
if I told you that in the
Okay.
session, but she was. I can see her pregnant belly in her dress. Um, but I was just like felt so lucky that she chose me, and I was marrying into this like wonderful warm family that was so different from mine.
Mm,
Yeah. It
yeah.
was a good moment, yeah.
Yeah. And then a special moment was you were playing with her and your son, or playing with
Mhm.
your son, and she was there. Like she thought you were
Yeah, yeah, we were in our house and my son was like 3 or 4 and Debbie was pregnant again, and we were all in this, like, on our bed under this, like, white sheet,
Mhm.
and I was, like, kinda, like, playing, like, monster, like, chase, like, grabbing my son's feet and stuff, and she was, like, pretending to be annoyed, but she was having fun really, you know?
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
sweet.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we come to the turning point. And do you remember that?
Yeah, so the next scene, I came in and I was kneeling and I could see very clearly my like big rancher man hands like just covered in blood, just like so much blood. And I could see her kind of, it was kind of blurry. Like I didn't really want to look, but I could see Debbie dying in childbirth with the birth of our second daughter. And she died, but the baby lived. And I just remember holding the baby, like, for a really long time because I felt like if I moved, then what just happened would be real.
Yeah.
So, I was holding the baby and she was oh, it's gonna make me sad. She was crying because she wanted her mom.
Mhm.
Um, and so eventually, I took out my pocket knife and cut the umbilical cord
Mhm.
and wrapped the baby in my shirt, and then I don't know if I told you this either, but I put my pinky in its mouth, like,
Mhm. I
just
think I
that,
remember that. Yeah.
and that kind of calmed her, and that was the first moment, like, "Okay, like, let's move forward." And then it
I'm
fast
just gonna
forwarded.
jump in. Does it
Yeah.
surprise you that it still makes you emotional?
Um, no, because it feels like a memory.
It is
Like,
a real memory. When
yeah.
people say, I think I was making it all up," but to me, the emotions are what validate this is you something you really experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so So then it fast forwarded to me holding her, like, all she was, like, all cleaned off with my older son, and we were, like, crying. And then, um, so I had, like, these dreams of leaving, but then I had to raise the children myself, and Debbie's family was there to help, like, her big family,
Mm.
so I stayed, like, in the small town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and David Ortiz is chiming in again. Oh,
Mm,
yeah, it
mm,
was very sweet and beautiful. And so in Sam's life, it was about adventure. In this life, you were wanting adventure. Your soul wanted to be free, but you
mhm.
chose family.
Yeah, and it was cool because when I was reflecting on the life, I was saying that I was a really good dad, like, I was very
Mhm.
close with my kids and really determined not to be distant, kinda like my parents were, so I
Right.
feel like I really succeeded, like, in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Great. Okay. And then you cross over, and I'm just going to refresh my memory a little bit. First, you went to I have my notes taped behind the monitor. That's why I'm looking up. But I remember you went to your soul group. There were a couple of different people that were really important, but is there anybody in particular that stands out to you that was there in your soul group?
Yeah, my husband, who
Yeah.
is like, in this life, who is my soulmate for sure, for sure, for sure, like, that was such a special moment. He came forward and said, like, "We've let's have adventures, and we've had so many adventures in so many lifetimes, and it's always okay because we're always together."
Right.
And it was really cool. He was holding my hands, excuse me, kind of like across like this, and he showed me it looked like a big bubble, like a big iridescent bubble, and it
Mhm.
was like all of the souls were born, and then they kept like dividing and dividing and dividing, and we were following this one bubble, and the last time it divided, one was me and one was him. He was showing me like we're two halves of the same whole.
Right. That I wrote down that like your energy was split, like you were originally one
Mhm.
one soul and you
Mhm.
divided into two.
Yep. Mhm.
And what was his soul name? Do you remember?
Is Yuriel, and
Right.
mine was Muriel, which
Which
is
is
actually my
your real name.
legal name. Yeah, I've always gone by my nickname Molly, but Muriel is my given name, which is really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And there was a female soul that was Sam, the ship captain's mom. And who
Yeah,
is that soul in your life today?
she's my mom now also, and we're really really close in both lives.
Mhm.
And her message to me was, you are so loved. Like you don't have to do anything for it. You're so loved.
Yeah. Which must have felt good after Jack's life where the mom was so distant.
And so that mom came to me too. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
Um, she was my granny in this life. So my mom's mom,
Mhm.
who died when I was 4, but we were very, very close. Like she lived super close. I would see her all the time. And so she was the distant mom in Jack's life. And her message for me was, I'm sorry I couldn't have been there for you in Jack's life. I tried to make up for it in this life.
Mm.
And a
Mm.
very fun fact about her. So when we went to Oaxaca, we had a nanny who we don't usually have, and she's like an intuitive and like can see
Mhm. Mhm.
souls and everything. And she was like, "There's a woman with your youngest son, like all the time." She's like, he was sleeping at the time, and she was like, she's just at the foot of his bed watching him sleep. Like she's very sweet, just like watches over him. And I had a feeling it was my granny, and I showed her a picture of my granny. She's like, "That's her." So she's like with my younger son, which is so
Wow.
sweet.
Is your younger son blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. So I have a few other messages from your soul group I wanted to make sure and mention. Well, you already said this. Wherever we go, we'll be okay because you have each other,
Mm-hmm.
you and your
Yeah.
husband. And they said, don't be, this is a brave soul group. Do you remember that part?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And do you remember anything else they said about that? Like I said, I listened to the whole thing this week, so it's a little more fresh for me.
What it wasn't like brave, like we choose hard lives. It was like we're not afraid of adventure, like not
Right. Yes,
afraid.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not afraid to die. We choose
Yeah.
adventurous lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, remember who you are, brave, playful, advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we went to the council, which was some of what we were showing in the Red Robe Order. And what do you remember about that?
So yeah, it looked like the Lincoln Memorial where I was kind of down lower than them on this marble platform, and they were up in these seats, and they were big, like they were 3 times my size or something. Yeah, and it was like Poseidon, and then the dinosaur prehistoric guy, and then Jesus, and then Athena. Yeah, and I'll just talk about what I remember, I guess. So,
Yeah. And then, like I
um,
said, I can fill in.
so the reptile, he said that he was like an alien. Like I just knew instinctively that he was an alien. And he said that my older son, who's named Eames, who's 4 years old, usually incarnates on his planet, and that it's much less dense than Earth. So
Mhm.
he's used to being able to manifest what he wants like
Mhm.
instantaneously. And it's
Mhm.
really hard for him on Earth not to be able to do that. And it is like he's so um, willful and intense when he doesn't get what he wants. And it was just, which I think is normal for kids in general, but like he is especially like
Mhm.
that. So it was like a little perspective on it for me just to
Mhm.
help me be patient with that.
Mhm.
Um, and then Athena said that, so I usually incarnate as male. And we didn't talk about this, but earlier I was in the womb talking about why I chose this female body. And
Mhm.
she kind of said that usually my body has like a very clear purpose that helps me toward my soul's purpose. So like with Sam, I used my body to sail and have
Right.
adventures, and like with
Right.
Jack, I used it to ride my horse, and I don't have that in this life. And so the lesson I need to learn from it is that your body is not important in and of itself, like it's just a mean to your soul's purpose. And I feel like living in Southern California is also like making like helping me learn that hard lesson, because like the body is so like glorified in Southern California, so
And
her
that was one of your questions that you brought to the session, how
yes,
to kind of keep that in perspective.
totally. So her thing was like, you can be this warrior, like even though you're like this slight little skinny female body, you can be this warrior spirit like she is kind of,
Yeah.
which is cool.
She said, remember your strength. And we do have more comments coming in. Moni says, lovely. So thank you for those of you here with us today. It's to me, this is just so exciting.
Yeah.
So I also well, go ahead. You first.
Well, I was just going to talk about Jesus, but if you have something else.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, what was your relationship with the Red Robe Order?
Oh, so they were training me to be one of them.
Right.
Yeah, which is cool.
Right. It's very advanced.
Yeah.
Group. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool.
Okay. And Jesus. Oh, and I did write down that they were here to help the people on earth. That's why you were here. That's the goal of the Red Robe. Okay.
Yeah. So Jesus, yeah. So oh God, there's like so much with Jesus. So he showed me that if any of you guys listened to the first one, when I was in the like life between life space, in the first section, a woman came to meet me and she had like this long silver hair. And at first, when we asked her name, I heard Yeshua,
Right.
which is Jesus's like historical name. And I was like, well, that's not Yeshua, that's a woman. Like, so I second guessed it. And that was the only thing I second guessed. And then when I saw Jesus this time, he showed me that that was him and it was his like divine feminine counterpart. And he basically said, I thought if I came to you as Jesus right off the bat, you wouldn't believe because I'm so prominent, in your culture. And it was really sweet how he showed me like, because I could kind of see their feet really good because they were like so big and like above me. And I could see Jesus's feet like in the sandals. And when I saw the woman version of him earlier, we had been walking and where she was walking, flowers were growing out of her feet.
Yeah.
And he showed me that they were the same feet. And like, that's kind of how he showed me that was him. It was so interesting.
And you said he was very warm.
Very warm. Yeah. Like very, yeah, just like no judgment, no, like could see me so well, like see me inside and out, but just love me no matter what. And he said he's my main guide. And he kind of said to like, this is my enlightenment life. If I, it can be like, there's very much potential for this to be my last incarnation and to like graduate kind of,
Right. Okay. So that's what I want to talk about next. But before we do, let me just give a couple of the messages they gave you.
Okay.
They also said, well, I asked, what are some of the characteristics that souls keep from life to life? And they said, for you, bravery, kindness, close relationships.
Yeah. And I just remembered something that I wanted to tell because it was so funny. But when the reptile guy was talking to me about Eames, you asked, knowing I have two sons, you asked if he had any messages about Blue, my younger son.
Yeah.
And I can see his like reptile mouth, like laughing, like he cackled. He's all Blue's fine.
Yeah.
Which is so true. Like my younger son is just like the most easygoing, sweet, just no problems at all. So
yeah, he's great. So just for those of you watching or listening, it's an amazing journey to find out what you do in between lives, but it also has relevance to this life. So it's a both and. It's incredible, and then it's also like down to earth. It's kind of a crazy combo.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Let's see. They talked a lot about karma, but not in the way we usually think of it, like you're being punished or something. Do you want to say anything about that, the karma and fear?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So I think they just said, like, I just have this little bit of karma left to clear. Like
some fear.
And it was fear. Yeah, that it's like, like I'm on the wheel and like to get off, I just have to clear this last little bit of fear. And they were very encouraging. Like they told me I'm already doing a good job, like in this lifetime. Like I feel like a lot of kids raised in the 80s, like it was like the era of missing kids on the milk cartons, like I was pretty kind of grew up thinking the world was a scary place. And I like have very consciously tried to unlearn that. So like, I feel like they were kind of like urging me on, like, yes. And that's the thing, like adventures will help with that too. Just like exposing yourself to different new quote unquote scary experiences and you see it's all fine. And yeah.
Right. Well, and what I heard over and over was Sam was adventure, Jack was family, and what
Mhm.
is this Molly life about?
Both adventure
Adventure
and family.
family,
Yeah,
which is what you just did.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then before we move on to the part where Jesus takes you all over, which was to me the really incredible part, was God actually showed up at the end of your counsel. Do you remember that part?
Yeah. It felt like the sun, like he or she or it felt like this like big loving sun that was shining on everything and shining in everything and just like permeating everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you even said, and you said this throughout later in the session too, and it's me.
Oh, I don't remember that, but that's
Yeah, I
sweet.
have written yeah, yes. He said, "It's the light and it's me."
Oh,
Like it's me, I'm it. It's all of us.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Jesus took your hand, and this is where it just went off the charts. And then whatever bits you wanna share, then I will kind of fill in some of these.
Sure, sure. So we fully like flew hand in hand. He said he wanted to take me to the Akashic records. And we flew to another building that looked kind of like same like Greek style with the white columns. And it was cool. It had like a peaked roof and there was writing chiseled in that I couldn't read, like a language I had never seen
Mhm.
before. And when we were standing outside of the Akashic records, like there were like steps up to it, he showed me that I had been with him in his Yeshua life.
Mhm.
And he said like it's not like I was one of the disciples, but he was like, I had many students in that life and you were one of them.
Yeah,
And I remembered him being crucified.
right.
Like I could see him, he was like carrying the cross and like falling like in the mud, like up this hill. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was so sad when you
Yeah, I know.
died. Like we all wanted to go help you and we couldn't. We couldn't believe they were doing this.
Yeah.
And he kind of like reached down and kind of like punched me on the shoulder. He's like, well, clearly it doesn't matter. He was like, we're together. Like, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We're still together. Like, that was really funny.
Wow.
Um,
Okay, and I just have to say, some of these little details I didn't get. Like you didn't share the punch on the shoulder or seeing him crucified. So I
yeah.
love this process of you getting to process it again. And I get to
Mhm.
benefit from hearing some details that I didn't get the first time. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Like, it's just so nuanced. Like, it's
Yeah.
so detailed, so nuanced. It's so like rich, like real life.
And
Yeah.
I know it's hard to put it into words, especially when you're under really deeply. People don't even want to talk. They just want to be there. And I'm like kind of
Mhm.
pulling it out of you,
Yeah.
so we have it
Yeah.
for the recording. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so then we went into the Akashic records and it was like just books everywhere, just like books for eternity. And then there was one red one like open on this podium. And we went up to it and I looked in it and I saw myself as a caveman.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
remember that?
Before we talk about the caveman, I just
Okay.
wanted to acknowledge, thank you, people who are listening and interacting. I've seen a dragon too in a dream, David said. Henry, amazing journey. Thank you, honey. That's my husband.
No.
So people are really enjoying your story, and I don't know if you can see the comments, so that's why I'm kind of
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
pulling
it's
them up.
very
Okay.
sweet. Thank you.
So yes, the prehistoric life, I remember that.
Yeah, so it was just like a little snippet. I was just like in the mud, like crouching down in this like fur like wrap thing. And Jesus was like, "Do you see how long you've been incarnating?" And I was
Right.
like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "You need to like get on with it." Like let's
Well, and
wrap
they
this up
actually said
here.
something a little crude. Do you remember what they said?
They did. They said it's time to shit or get off the pot.
So I don't know if we're allowed to say that on YouTube. If
Sorry.
not, we'll bleep it out. No,
Yeah.
but that's what I was gonna ask you to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesus was like kind of funny. It was
Yeah. So it's not all angels and fairy dust. We have
yeah.
personalities over there. Even
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
swore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
So
prehistoric life. And for me, what I kind of wrote is the whole process of Jesus taking you all around and flying you all around was they even used the words trying to entice you to wrap up this life. Not wrap
Mhm.
it up like end it, but to jump into the adventures. Leap is the word they said.
Yeah.
Leap into, I wrote it down somewhere, but basically to leap into these adventures with Mike and
Mhm.
overcome this last little bit of fear so you could join them and be part of the Red Robe Order.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Which to me sounds like a Narnia or Lords of the Rings story. It's just like,
And it's really interesting. Like I've always been into fantasy. Like my husband makes like endless fun of me because I love Lord of the Rings. I loved Narnia. I love Neverending Story. Like I still watch all those kids movies, and I feel like it's because I have this
mhm.
like fable, like these gods on my council.
Well, and I would say these come from somewhere in our subconscious or our,
Mhm,
we're pulling these from somewhere. I mean,
mhm.
I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I
Yeah,
think that those things, there's some realness to them.
totally.
Okay, so I have down, he took you on adventure flying, fun, see how big it is,
Hmm.
all the souls play, feel what it feels like to be free. I remember asking you how many souls, because they said all the souls play. And I said, how many? Do you remember how many souls?
I don't remember. What did I
Just
say?
yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
it was
know
like
the words.
countless, countless.
Exactly. It was
Yeah,
something like countless or infinite or
infinite. Yeah,
yeah,
just so many. Just all different colors. Like it was really beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And then angels, dragons.
Hmm.
And I remember I was like, "Dragon? There's a dragon?" And I said, "What's the purpose of the dragon?"
And I said to show me there's magic.
There's magic over here. Exactly. And then they had a bunch, well, they had messages and then you said, "I know them all and I love this, and they're all me too."
Mm,
The more advanced souls I encounter, the more they speak as we're all one. They have
mm.
not they have trouble, but they don't describe themselves as a single entity. Remember once asking someone, I said, "So you're one of them, these souls that they were encountering?" And they said, "No, I'm part of them."
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, especially when God came. Like just everything was permeated and part of this like light. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all one. They said, "Oh, getting over this last little bit of fear. You're so close." I still love this. What's the worst that can happen? You heard this?
No.
What's the worst that can happen? You die and you get to come here.
Oh.
You were like, "What's the
I do
worst
remember
that
that.
can happen?"
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great.
I
It's
know.
great up there.
It made me laugh. Okay, and then you went to a place that has hardly been written about in the Newton books at all, but I was so fascinated, and I was fascinated when I read it, and then when you said you were there, again, I was like, "What? You're where?"
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you remember which place I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
so I went to the Soul Nursery, and it was like this big wall of light, like glowing light, and these little balls of light were being born out of it, and I knew those were like new souls. And there were these nurses there, and they were just like light too, and they would just hold the little baby souls for a really long time. And the message there was, I just need to hold my family in my love, like those nurses do.
Mm.
Like, you don't need to do anything but hold them in your love. Like, that's all they need. And yeah, it was really cool.
Wow, and that was one of my questions I was gonna ask you is, do you know why you were shown that? Because I didn't think to ask you at the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's why. That's why.
Wow. Okay, and then the last place I think that I have was Mother Mary.
Hmm.
I mean, you, like, hit so many spots and people. I was like, "Oh, this is
And
so much."
I don't know if this came through when, like, in the session, but it was so funny because I heard you get excited for Mother Mary, and I was like, "Well, I just knew her in the Yeshua life. She just thought I'd wanna see her again." It was like no big deal.
Well, I'm like, "Jesus, the dragon, the soul nursery, a reptile." It just doesn't get any better. So
Yeah.
tell me what you remember about Mother Mary.
So she was so big too. She was, like, giant, and she held my hands and just, like, gave me this, like, love infusion, just, like, so loving, so compassionate, like not non-denominational or anything like that, like just this really loving mother figure. um I kind of felt like it's kind of like it felt like how the babies felt in the nursery, kind of like just being
Mm,
held by that like
mm,
mothering energy.
mm. Well, and I couldn't help but wonder if some of that was also because Jack's mother was not there for him.
Hmm.
that she kind of
Yeah.
made an appearance.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the high points. I told Molly I had so many notes. I didn't know if we could cover all of it, but that's most of it. But can you think of anything else that you want to make sure that we include? And I'm just going to look over here. I just see thanks, Molly. Lovely. Wow. But
No,
anything else that kind of comes to you, or any other thoughts you want to share?
the
We'll
only
wrap up.
thing that came to me was in my like soul group. The first person that came was my older son,
Mhm.
and he was like so eager to come, and he was just like, he was this little yellow like sprite, and he was just in my face like, do you see me? Like, this is who I am. Like, do you see this is who I really am? Like, so excited for me to see him in his soul form. Like, he had been just waiting for it. And he was like, I just want to play. I just want to play. That's all. Just play with me, which is exactly how he is in real life. I was like, yeah, I didn't need to see you as a soul to get that
Wait. I
message.
didn't need to what?
I don't need to see you as a soul to get that message.
Oh,
But
right.
but he was just like thrilled to meet me in that way, which was really sweet.
Yeah. And I even wrote a note. His name was Joshua.
Joshua, yeah, that was his like soul name.
Yeah. And his name in this life is Eames. Am I saying
Eames,
it right?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And I got to see them both. I remember you brought them on camera
Yeah, yeah.
when we were talking another time. Okay. So let me look over. Thank you, Vondi, for facilitating. Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
any final words from you, Molly? Coming back, this is you're our only person who's come back twice. But it was so much. Remember, we met last time before. We were like, I don't think we're gonna be able to fit this all into one
Yeah,
episode. I mean, how
yeah.
are we doing on time? Yeah, we're at about 45 minutes.
Mhm.
This is your
Yeah,
second episode.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is if anyone is wavering about doing this or not, do it. Like, I think about it every day. Like,
Mm,
it makes it easier to remember like what's important, like what carries on, and it's love. It's love. It's the relationships. It just helps you focus on what matters, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. They kept telling you choose what's eternal.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a really beautiful, if anyone knows A Course in Miracles, the like tagline, I guess, for that is, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And like it really brought that home. Like nothing real can be threatened. Like it's all carries on. Like everything real, love, your memories, your relationships, it all carries on. And there's nothing to worry about, It's all good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see and hear more about your adventures with your family. But thank you so much for being with us. I'm just going to look over. Thank you, Vondi. Thank you, Molly. So thank you for coming back
Of course.
twice.
Of course. Yeah. It's a
Back
pleasure.
for a second time. It's great to have you here. So I'm going to switch over just before we wrap up and give you a little break, Molly.
Okay.
And thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So thank you so much for watching. And I just wanted to let you know that next week we'll be talking about your questions about life between lives. Anything you heard today that you have a question about, and you can add to our poll in our Facebook group and vote for questions and even add your own questions. So the sessions are getting more interesting. I think they're bringing me people who are having these really incredible experiences because they want you to hear about these. So please join our Facebook group, vote in our poll. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I needed to say. I think that's it. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Thank you. Can't wait to see you next week. And thank you, Molly.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And join us next week for another episode of Soul Guide.